Excuse me. Alright, so this is an absolute beginner's tutorial for completely new users to Blender. So, first of all, you can click on objects. This is the camera, this is the cube, and this is the light. Next thing you need to know is that if you click down on your mouse wheel and then just slowly move your mouse around, you can move your camera around and it pans from wherever your center point is. Right now it is right here and we have it panned around to change the center point. From here on, I'm going to do screencast keys so that you can see what I'm doing a lot better. So if you look right here, you'll be able to see anything I click if I forget to mention to say it, or if you just don't understand what I'm saying. So next, you can hold shift, and then if you click on mouse wheel again and move around, you'll pan around whatever you're looking at. From here, what you can do is you can click on the X, the Y, and the Z coordinates. And you can click from top to bottom, left, right, front, back. Doesn't really matter where you do it, you can still do it. Next thing you need to know is some hotkeys. So for example, if you press A, selects every object that's available. As long as it isn't hidden. If it is hidden, I believe you have to click either Control A right here. Oh, if it is hidden, you click A right here. And it will select all items, including anything inside of a collection. Next, what you can do is if you have all items selected, you can press X and you can delete it. We're gonna undo that though, so that I can show you a couple more things. So next is whatever part you have clicked on is your primary part. For example, when I click on this cube, I can go to modifiers and I can add modifiers. If I didn't click on this exactly and I try to add a modifier, if I hadn't clicked on this previously and I were to add a modifier or try to add a modifier, this little wheel wouldn't, this little wrench right here wouldn't show up. So from here, once you have this selected, you can click on tab and that will put you in edit mode to where you can see the vertices. And right here you have the individual vertices, the edges, and the faces. The faces are the actual squares you see, or sometimes triangles if you triangulate it. The edge loops are these little lines you're seeing, and the vertices are the dots where the lines connect. Let's see, what else is there? So now we're going to go out of tab mode, and we are going to look at grid snap. And if you use the hotkey G, which is to move things around, and you have grid snap on, it will snap in a grid. If you go back, if you press S, you can scale things up and you can scale things down. Now if you click Control, if you hold Control and Shift and press Z, if you press Control and Z, it'll undo that. Now if you want to redo that, you would press Control Shift Z and it would redo it. But we're going to press Control Z and go back to normal cube size. Another thing you might like to know is that if you go over here to where object properties is, you can change the location, the rotation, and the scale along any coordinate. Another thing to know is that if you have a project that you're working on and you would like to see how many triangles you have, right here, if you're working on a project and you like to see how many triangles an object has, or your models in general, what you can do is you can click right here And when you viewport overlays, you go down to statistics, turn it on. Now on the top left, you'll see triangles, faces, edges, vertices, and objects. So objects is the objects you have selected. So if right here, if I click on one of these objects, it'll show me that I have 1 out of 3 objects. And when you press tab to go into edit mode, it'll tell you how many triangles this object has. Let's see what else is there user friendly. Another thing to know is that you can press Control R and you can put these loops in. So what we're going to do is we're going to put loops in all of these to make it where everything is a 2x2 grid. Howdy salty. And if you go to edge, if you go to click on vertices select, you go click on this proportional editing, and when you go to pull this, anything inside the circle radius, which is really a sphere radius, but you can't see it that well, when you pull it, if you use mouse wheel to zoom out a little bit with it, also I'm pulling this along the z-axis, which is why it might mess up a little bit, it will pull anything in its radius in this direction. So if I unclick Z, it'll pull it all in this radius. Howdy salty. I'm just recording a video real quick, by the way. If there's anything you'd like me to see, let me know. Another thing to remember is that if you press K while in edit mode, you can click on a vertice or anywhere along an edge, maybe even anywhere on a face if you like to. It's usually better practice to go along the vertices though. And you can click right here, boom. And you can go more than this. You can do a whole line around it and you'll be good. You just gotta press space once you're done and it'll save. If you don't want it to save when you're doing it, what you can do is you can click on this, space, Control Z. And that's how you undo it. If you want to inset an object, which means pull the face in, you can press I and pull it in. If you have 2 objects selected and you inset it, it will do this. If you want to get around this and do both individually, you click I. The way to remember that is inset, enter. So I. Next, what you can do with these is you can press E to extrude and you can pull down or up, either or, doesn't really matter. And then if you want to scale them down together, you can press S and pull them down, but they will scale in together. So that piece right there is going underneath this edge. So the way to get around that is you would go right here to global. You go right here to this little transform pivot point and you go individual origin, S, and when you scale it, they'll both go individually. How long you code in Lua and use Blender? I don't really code, but Blender, almost 3 years now, I think. 2.5 years, I think. If you like to bevel this, what you can do is you can press Control and B, and when you pull this line out, it'll bevel it. If you pull it in, the bevel won't be as big. And if you do mouse wheel up, it'll create more bevels. If you go down, it'll create less. So if you want to get rid of these little lines right here, what you can do is you can click right click and shade smooth. Now when you have this problem where you see how rough these smooth edges are, what you can do is you can go down here, and when you're in object data properties, you can go to normals and click on auto smooth. If you have stuff like this where it's still rough, what you can do is you can drag this when you click it and just up the level of smoothness until you get to what you want. Since right here it is super smooth and it's too smooth and you don't want that smooth, what you want to do is you want to go in object mode, click on edge loops, hold alt, click on this, hold shift, click on this side, click on this, and what you're doing when you're holding alt is you're selecting anything that's linked to it in this row. So if I click right here, it'll connect this, alt here, that. If you just do shift though, like this, you just click shift once, it gets that one edge. So what we're going to do is we're going to select as much as possible, and we are going to make sure everything stays rough along these edges. So when you go to edge, you want to go to mark sharp, and when you mark it sharp, there you go. Get it all sharp, and then this piece right here will stay flat. Sorry, not stay flat, stay smooth. Is there anything I'm missing? Did delete an object, did insets, extrudes, knife cutting, edge loops. If you want to randomize an object, the best way to do it is when you're in edit mode, go down here to the smooth tool, and when you hold left click down on it, you'll see randomize. And now you have to select on to either edge loop, vertice, bases. I'm going to do vertices for this one, and everything you have selected will be randomized when you pull this. So when you pull it, it'll be a little bit rough pulling it. So what you're going to want to do is with all of it selected, press S, scale it up so you can get a more accurate randomization, and then you can pull it. And then you can see it's a lot smoother than it would be normally, which granted this part right here is still going to look really rough, but you can do this a lot easier. Now useful modifiers that I use would be something like subdivision. So with a subdivision surface modifier, it will just combine everything to make it a little bit smoother looking. It's basically like a bevel tool but for everything. So see right here, the cube went from this shape to this shape. And the more you up it, the smoother it'll look. But also increases triangle count. So you don't want to do it much. But let's say I were to do it 4 times and apply it, and I wanted it to go down an easy way without going through and then going right here, Alt, right click, dissolve. I don't want to do that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to modifier, decimate, and we're going to pull this down till we see this face count hit 10K. Just for this model. Some models are a little bit different, they'll look a little bit rougher. But then when you're over this, press Control A, and then if you go back to decimate again, the reason we're doing this multiple times is because if you only do it once and you just pull it all the way down, it's going to look a lot worse than it would if you did it one by one. So we can do is you can pull this down again, and we're just going to try to get this underneath 1,000 faces. Another way to do it instead of pressing Control A would be to pull this, click this drop down, apply, there you go. So we're just going to pull this down again, apply, decimate, apply. Now, if you get an object like this, what I would recommend doing, if you want to keep doing subdividing, is just keep subdividing and then decimating until you get the shape you want. So, like this, just keep on going until you get there. Which this shape is a lot harder to do with only 500 triangles. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go subdivide. I guess we'll do it twice. No, we can do it once. We can do it once. What do you work as? 3D modeler. So what we can do is we can grab these lines on this side. Let's grab as many as we can with the selection tool. Let's grab a bunch of these, and then we will go dissolve edge. And then we'll just keep doing that right here to the stuff that is on the flat side. Boom. So if you watch the triangles, you'll see them slowly over time start disappearing because of all of the edges that are getting dissolved. Do you freelance or are you salary freelance? And then we just click on these, dissolve edges, this side, dissolve edges, right here as well. We can go right here, dissolve edge, just a really weird shape to explain all this on, but you should be able to generally get the gist. Working on anything currently other than YouTube tutorials? This game right here, which I don't know how many it has on right now, 17, earlier had on 150. I guess we grab these pieces right here, dissolve edge, dissolve edge. We can dissolve these edges as well. Dissolve, dissolve. Oh, probably don't want to get these two. Those two actually are pretty detrimental. Dissolve, dissolve. But you generally get the process. If it was something more along the lines of a icosphere, which would probably be a better example, and say we wanted to get rid of, I guess, the sides, what we would do is, you can't do that with icosphere? Okay, well, never mind, not icosphere. UV sphere. So say with these 16 rings on the side right here, we wanted to have 8, so we'd go every other. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then we could go right click, dissolve edge, and then that knocks the triangles down from 960 to 512. And then again, if you want to smooth it out, shade smooth. Alright, that was, I think that's going to be the basic tutorial for Blender, so let's look at the outro. What is my, oh yeah, subscribe by the way if you're watching this. What is my actual subscribe rate per viewer? Analytics. Audience, how many of my viewers are actually subscribed? 88% are not subscribed. It's actually a pretty good number. 88% of my viewers are not subscribed, so subscribe for more tutorials. Anybody got any ideas on anything else? Well, I'll be right back then. What else is there to do? Oh! What is it? 1280 by 720 is what I'm on YouTube thumbnail. 720. So something new that I learned is that if you take something super unsaturated, for example a map, and you wanted to make something really contrasted, so for example, let me restart this. So a way to make something really contrast without using just purely black and then just putting a little black, sorry, way to really contrast things without just doing black and then just a white square in the middle, is what you can do is instead of this white you can have something really unsaturated, like almost pastel. So we'll do like a pastel red, and right here in the middle what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a very saturated red. So this can go for a lot of things in games. Like if you want something to stand out, for example a character or a boss, if you have this saturated in the middle and unsaturated on the sides, even if it's in black and white, you can see it stands out. So no matter what, it's going to stand out even if it's the same color, as long as it's more saturated. Games, a really good game example that uses this is Team Fortress 2. As you can see in this picture right here, you can see that everything around is pastel, very unsaturated. Now what we can do is we can go to adjustments, and if we go to adjustments and we do black and white, you can see how this character and its objects will stand out in comparison to the background. Let's find out the greatest example picture. Let me find out there. Probably a better example. So a really good example of this would be when you look at a character on TF2 and you see the background compared to the character. So now if we put this in black and white, you can see how the character stands out from the background, right? So that is a great way to make characters stand out in games that isn't normally talked about, but is very effective.